Let's get a game plan in place so that you can feel less anxiety about being let go. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. You've seen the 2 videos I've made talking about how COVID has impacted Social Security and retirement. And as time marches on, we're continuing to see companies continue to furlough people and even to let folks go. And so this is creating a crisis for those in the 50 to 65 range. People don't know what they're going to do about their retirement and how they're going to continue on, how to find a new job. So this video marks the first of 4 videos talking about what to do when you are let go of a job. In this 4-part series, we're going to be talking about knowing your do's, knowing your don'ts, figuring out what your resources are, and coming up with a plan. But before we get into our first video talking about know the do's, don't forget to subscribe for a regular dose of a pleasant financial conversation. Anytime someone has a life event like losing a job, there is a period of time that you have to give yourself for the grief, the sadness, the anger, whatever emotions come to the surface. And so before you dive into this video, I hope you have given yourself that time just to kind of rise above that emotion, kind of let it normalize a bit. Now that you've given yourself that time, let's dive on into the first tip of what to do after you lose a job. And that is know your do's. There are certain actions that we can take immediately that help us relieve some of that anxiety that comes with losing a job. The first, of course, is to write a resume. Now, I am no writing a resume expert. There are plenty of others. In fact, here are a couple that might serve you well, both on the interwebs and locally here in Northeast Ohio. Because let's be real, when I was in college and writing my resume for the first time, my coach told me that
I use too much color and too much design for someone in the field of finance.
We can't all be square pegs and square holes. Writing that resume is going to help you feel great about where you've been and the skill set that you've developed over your lifetime. The second on Know Your Do's is to connect with your financial planner and get an appointment on the schedule. The reason we do this is that anytime we enter a new life circumstance where it kind of throws us for a loop, just knowing that there is a scheduled time on my calendar where I can have a full financial conversation. I'm not going to stick my head in the sand. I'm going to come up and I'm just going to face what's real. Helps us calm our nerves. You will feel instant gratification for having that appointment on the schedule. And hopefully you have a good financial planner that makes you feel good about your money and doesn't just talk statistics over you, and that will have a real financial conversation. If you don't, well, you know where to find me. The third item in the do's category is to write down your financial priorities and your financial fears. So let's start with the priority side of this. What you're going to do is write down those key priorities that you have. There are certain things that stick in our mind a little bit heavier once we have income loss. Maybe that's paying off the mortgage, maybe that's paying down credit cards, or maybe that's our kids' college. Whatever those are, just prioritize them in order. By doing that, you're going to end up helping that financial planner that you've already scheduled your meeting with to know what comes first. Now, on the financial fear side of things, the reason we write this down is that our mind just jumps so quickly to the worst case scenario. And if we write that out, let's say it's, I've lost my job, I'm never going to find another job, I'm going to deplete all of my life savings, I will have to go onto welfare or start my social security check early, and that means that I'm going to be a bad lady the rest of my life. If that's really your fear, write it down. Get it out on paper, because the moment you give it a name and you write it out on paper, it has less power over you. And this is a time where you need to be in more control of what's controlling your mind. So get those fears written down on a piece of paper. The fourth of the do's is to calculate your monthly spending, also known as your budget. I'm sorry to say that word because that word tends to weigh a little heavier on most people, but calculating our budget is one of the first steps in any financial conversation that we have. And you will have seen me talk about this at length in my previous video talking about how to calculate your budget. But just know that the advisor, the financial planner that you're planning to talk to, is not going to be slashing and burning your budget at this point. What they're trying to do is figure out what's your standard of living so that they can help you figure out the resources that match that standard of living. Think of it as just investing 2 hours of your time to really figure out what your numbers look like as far as your budget goes. It won't take you very much longer than that, and you're going to feel a lot better just knowing that number. All right, friends, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Losing a job is never fun, and especially when you're in that 50 to 65 zone, losing your job creates a lot more anxiety because you're not sure where your next job is going to come from or if you can match the same lifestyle that you've been enjoying in the past. And so I've noticed within my practice that within the last 4 weeks, I've been having this consistent conversation with folks who have been let go from a career that they've had for a long time because of budget cuts. And because they're in that 50, 55, 65 range, they're having a hard time finding a new job to jump to. And they might not be offered at the same rate that they were in the past. And so my job with them is to step in beside them, help them figure out their options, and make sure that any decision that they're making, that they go in with eyes wide open, seeing the ramifications long term. And so if that's something that you see as a conversation that you need to be having right now, reach out to me. Let me know, and I'd love to set up an introductory call with you. You can go to my website, www.pleasantwealth.com, to set that meeting. And until next time, friends, you take care.